Hello all and welcome back. Today I will actually look at a different aspect of Samus's suit and character. Up until this point in time, I've been talking a lot about her personality, what it is that drives her, what it is that pushes Samus to be the hunter and the individual that she is. Today, no more. I want to focus today on something totally out there, something that I don't think anybody's really talked about. Customization. Now, customization is a really gaming system. And first and foremost, I understand that. But while I was playing actually last night to record this, I came across the idea that mayhap Samus could have a means of changing her gear out, her loadout, to suit her needs. This isn't exactly new by any means. You get to see it and witness it in Super Metroid. Being able to swap out your beam weapons and use different variations of super missiles, beam weapons, etc. to really drive home the level of power and control that Samus has. However, trilogy, we are introduced 9 suits that I am aware of. Close to that. We have the power suit, the Varia suit, the gravity suit, the phazon suit, the dark suit. We have the dark suit with the gravity boost. We have the light suit, and the PvP suit. And dare I say, we could also take it a step further and mention that we also have the Prime Sword, which is currently yet unnamed. Now the reason I want to bring all of this up is that each of them has a different design, a different build, and possibly even different capabilities. If you were to look at the light suit versus the PED suit, the first thing you would notice is that the light suit is a lot more slender than the and to me, it focuses in on agility. Being able to get from point A to point B faster than your opponent can react to. That is effectively the best descriptor of the unique capabilities of this suit. But going further than that, I noticed that the PED suit doesn't take damage, not in the way that the other suits do it. When in hyper mode, the suit itself absorbs damage and adds it to the pool of energy that can be used to fuel hyper mode based attack. So, in a roundabout way, Samus is effectively just a tank when using the PED. It allows, in many ways, for Samus to be able to mitigate the damage taken by, ironically, dishing all of that energy, all of that power, back at her opponents. And theoretically, you could take this a step further. The new suit from Prime 4, or the phazon suit from Prime 1, can also be seen as a damage bonus. There's a dozen different ways you can take it. You can have one that focuses in on long range with light armor. You can have one that focuses in on just being a tank in general. Being able to absorb or left, right, center. There are possibilities that I don't believe have truly been checked out as of yet for how Metroid as a whole could theoretically work. Now, let me be clear. I'm not saying that we are going to get any form of this. Rather, I'm saying that it is a area of video games that is common, but isn't something that we've ever got in this way. And other major franchises, after Prime 3 creation, looking at games like Zelda Breath of the Wild, have actually involved a lot of customization options. And if you were to look at Prime 3's comparison being Halo, Halo 3 came out around the same time as Metroid Prime, and had customization options as well. So it's not the most absurd thing to believe that we could potentially get some form of customization in Prime 4. Now, let me be clear, I don't think it's going to be the most likely thing out there. But, I mean, a guy can hope, right? Anywho, with that being all said and done, I wanted to actually get into the lore of Prime 3. Now, we had touched on the lore of Prime 3 in terms of Brio, as well as in the terms of Norion. But Elysia, ironically, has a lot more in-depth look than the other planets did. Now, the lore of Elysia actually comes from an individual that is considered to be the last Elysian. Elysians are semi-mechanized individuals that were granted themselves free thinking, free-form thought, and were capable of effectively being liaisons between themselves and the other sentient life forms around them.
Thank you, Samus. We have restored our connection to Skytown's network. Now we can execute our plan to destroy the Leviathan. We must first disable the Leviathan's protective shield. Unfortunately, the generator for this shield is hidden beneath the dense clouds of Elysia, and so is impossible to reach directly. As an alternative to destroying the generator, we have calculated that a massive thermonuclear explosion would likely destroy the shield itself. This facility possesses the components to create such a device. We would like you to build this device and drop it on the Leviathan's shield. Unfortunately, the components are too large for... There is a Federation landing site far to the east of Skytown. You will be able to find something to help you there. We will upload the current map data of this area to your suit. This should help you get started. Good luck, Samus.
Anyway, the Elysian lore comes from the last of the sentient Elysians. This individual is likely the boss, the Steam Lord. And truth be told, I don't really have any huge groundbreaking information on it. But the Elysia Skytown was created as a research station for the Chosen, allowed for the aim of researching the cosmos. Each year, more of Skytown was created and added, creating a network of information, a net over of information on the cosmic scale floating over Elysia. The hallowed halls. Within these hallowed halls, they discovered something that would spell disaster for all. This, of course,
ship status update.
Would be
auto repair functions complete.
Information
Ship is
surrounding
ready for use.
things. Skytown, however, as time went on, needed maintenance. The harsh weather, the wind of Elysia, meant that the city had to be in operation constantly to be able to be of use to the Chosen. And so, the Chosen created mechanisms similar to the Elysian that would act as effectively a means of maintaining the Skytown network, so that the Chozo could focus in on their goals of discovering more, of curbing their intellectual appetite. The first of the Elysians that was created in this means was crude by their current standards, but it focused on the creation of maintenance of hardware within Skytown. After a time, they created the satellite probes, tools which allowed information to be passed back to the Chozo and allow them to satisfy their appetite over a long period of time, one planet at a time. However, during this age of enlightenment, shall we say, there was one probe that went missing. And it began to send information that they had not expected. This information came with the form of a planet. Both planet in shape and in its, I suppose, atmosphere. But it was also sentient.
Samus, the security locks have been engaged on this landing site. This was surely a result of Gore's recent activities. I will unlock this area, allowing you to command your ship to land.
However, this one probe ended up flying out of Beirut, or this planet's realm of influence, rather quickly. They only got a small amount of information on it, but they worked tirelessly to try to find this. The Elysian mechanoids were left alone for a while, or for a time. The Chozo went on to other endeavors, taking on the habitation of planets like ZDR, Zebes, and Talon 4. 400 years after the creation of the first, they left. And now, the mechanoid Elysians had one goal: to gain insight into the living planet and hopefully find a way to curb any potential disaster. As you can see, I am now on Bryo. There's an upgrade I need from over here. Anyways, the Elysians only had about 200 years worth of fuel, and due to the nature of being robotic, they needed their fuel to last. They ended up going into a state of hibernation as a result of not having enough fuel to maintain their needs. Because they didn't have enough fuel to maintain their needs, they created smaller mechanoids with the sole purpose of collecting more fuel and to sustain their station. During this time, the Elysians went into hibernation and effectively received information from Skytown stations in the form of what could best be documented as dreams, or a dreamlike state. They also, during this time, witnessed the fall of Talon 4. This is approximately 50 years before the events of Prime 3. They ended up getting in contact with the Federation. And the Federation led to a new age prosperity and knowledge. The Elysians were just rather happy to be involved in a new age of inclusion. Their network of information could lead to the discovery of new planets and potentially end threats before they ever arrive. And this actually is what the researchers of the Federation aimed for. However, this being said, they didn't really get as far as they would have otherwise liked. The atmosphere and weather of Elysia was harsh. Too harsh for the Galactic Federation researchers to live and thrive on that planet. And so, they created, or rather left behind, Aurora. The Aurora unit was placed into Elysia to effectively prevent loss of life, but also meant that they would constantly have access to their network of information from various planets. It was effectively the perfect, shall we say, piece of information, the perfect way to get everything back together. In exchange for Elysia's information network, they received the necessary materials for the maintenance of Skytown and the fuel that they required from Bryo. However, for the events of the game as a whole, the Leviathan seed fell from the sky. After them working peacefully for a few years, it impacted the core below the city, destroying a large part, and creating rifts of corruption across the planet. The network of information that they thought would be the end result, the be-all, end-all, their means of actually being able to solve problems, ended up being as the corruption ended up taking over their one creature, their Aurora unit as well, leaving them with no means of communication. And ironically, along with no means of communication, they were also left effectively with no means of communication, no outside help. Slowly, they ended up being attacked they quickly became attacked by the space pirates. Meaning that they've not only lost business communication, any potential help that they would have, but we're fighting a war on their planet in Skytown, aiming to prevent any loss of knowledge. You know how this goes at this point. The space pirates were winning the battle. The Elysians, one by one, fell to the power of corruption that the space pirates brought with them. And when Gore arrived, they saw freedom. They saw a chance at getting Skytown back, only for Gore to fall to the exact same problem that plagued them prior. Thus, the information that we gain on it ends effectively where it begins. The last of the Elysians acknowledging that they're in dire circumstances, but there's really nothing that can be done at this moment in time. The Elysian put itself into a hibernation state once more, and also opted for a much more comprehensive solution, which was to upload the last of its memories into data drives. Effectively, they aimed for it to be uncorruptible in order to pass on what it knew to either a savior or to the Federation as need be, should the need arise, should the possibility emerge. And that's really where it all ends. Now, I do actually like where the lore of Skytown comes from. It showcases a level of care that they were able to put approximately 2,000-ish, a little bit more, years worth of information together for this one planet. And the fact that they knew about Phase well in advance suggests that they were aware of the weaknesses and the potential danger that it posed, but that there was really very few ways of actually challenging to get to Phase to be able to end the problem before it arose. This, of course, is kind of the big be-all, end-all of Elysium. Their primary goal, what it was that actually built them up to be the, I suppose, shall we say, the greater good, the planet that would ultimately be capable of allowing Elysia to step into what I would consider a golden age.
Samus. Samus, are you there? We have been trying to reach you. Is everything all right? There are some important new findings. A reconnaissance team has discovered the location of a missing flight football object. As I am sure you are aware, this vessel was attacked by pirates 5 months ago. We request that you investigate the fall for any information about the pirates and their master plan. We will upload the coordinates to you now.
Anyway, the age of prosperity for each race typically is one of enlightenment. For the Brionians, it was an age of scientific discovery, where they sought to really challenge what was possible, creating the Moganars and sending off their pollution into space, because that was all they could really do to prevent catastrophe. And on its own, this is a fantastic information. For the Federation, it's not galactic, their goal was never galactic conquest, but galactic peace. So on and so forth. For the Elysians, their ideal age, their golden age, was the age in which they had begun to work alongside the Federation, believing that the Federation and them working together could and did end catastrophes long before they actually started. It was a perfect circumstance, a symbiosis between the pair of them, that really showcased what the Elysians were capable of. But while I'm thinking on it, and while I have this chat, I mentioned earlier that I believe the last Elysian was the Steam Lord. Now, if you know what the Steam Lord is, it is that one floating drone that can bring other beings back to life throughout Elysium. The Steam Lord is far and away the most advanced piece of tech within the entire region of Elysium. And yeah, okay, fair enough. The most advanced piece of tech within Elysium. And its goal throughout the entire run is to act as not a barrier for entry, but act as a defensive line against any further damage dealt to Elysium. He focuses very primarily on bringing the tin bots back to life, and so on and so forth, repairing them as needed. And I think that this is a really good kind of segue for what his whole identity was. It was never that the Steam Lord was the villain, at least not prior to the events of the main game. Rather, the Steam Lord was what I'll call a silent watcher. He was somebody who aimed to maintain what was left of Elysia after the Chozo had left, but didn't really have a whole lot of options available to most. The version that we see in-game is a corrupted version. It lost itself somewhere else. It's no longer capable of communicating or even bargaining with anybody around it. Rather, it is now a strong-willed, I'm going to fight you kind of being. It is unable or unwilling, probably unable, to empathize or work with another being peacefully. And it's quite a shame, because I do believe that the Steam Lord is one of the most potent and powerful units within this game. Its power goes well beyond norm, being a much more open-ended and unreliable being. I think that's the best way of describing it. Its whole identity was around its capabilities of creating and maintaining the technology that surrounds it, of being able to actually make something more of the world around it, not just the combat aspect, but its engineering and maintenance side of what it is as a being was towards what it is. The current goal is to build a thermonuclear device, which is a fancy way to say a giant bomb. To do so, I need access to a nucleus, that being a tractor beam, or a grapple beam for the ship. Tractor beam's entire ideology is pretty clean cut, I suppose. There's not much that it really needs to be described or showcased. Rather, it is simply a grappling hook that is able to collect bits and pieces of the thermonuclear device to be able to get what we need to final drop. Now, I'll be honest, I'm actually a little bit scared of what this is going to look like in the near future. Because that device has what I'll call a very big plot point around it. And that's not a bad thing. I have no issue with a plot point or a how do I want to put it? A set around it. A major battle around whether or not Samus can actually get the device to its eventual location. I have no problem with any of it. I in fact love the fact that Prime 3 has such a unique approach to the final version of this battle, shall we say. But where I think that Prime 3's battle is going to be a little bit more questionable is the fact that the battle itself that takes place over the thermonuclear device is, I suppose, a defensive battle. And sometimes I find that the defense-based battles are problematic and difficult. This is by far and away one of the most potent defense-based battles in the entire trilogy, with only one other really showcasing what it is that we're aiming for. So, in that regard, I do believe that that particular set is quite possibly one of the more unique circumstances of the entire trilogy. Effectively, the goal is to get the ball to the Leviathan seed before the space pirates blow it up on you. You both want to use it, but Samus wants to use it to stop the space pirates, and the space pirates identify it as one of the few ways that they could actually stop Samus. I think that's kind of a cool little nod to the characters and their circumstances. Is that I think at this point, the space pirates have kind of come to grips with the fact that there really aren't very many options for defeating Samus as a character. They've tried using Phazon on Talon 4, and for a way, it worked. But even Ridley couldn't do much about it. They tried using the Metroid Prime, their elite pirates. They tried using... So they used the Metroid Prime, the elite pirates. They have used Phazon in and of itself. They have used Metroid. They have used and even tried to get Dark Samus out. And so the pirates are kind of stuck in limbo right now, where nothing they do is really gonna do much at all. And that's a crying shame. Because I truly believe that the pirates have the upper hand in most combat circumstances, but are just stuck in a perpetual state of being powered. To a point where they don't really foresee knowledge as their solution. They see warfare, they see combat as their solution to everything. Samus doesn't really approach circumstances with a combat mind. Don't get me wrong, she uses her arm cannon and her suit of armor as a weapon to say the least. But it's never her foremost solution to everything. It is, she needs it only for her survival. She uses alternative means, more often than not, in order to solve her problems. Anyways, what do you think of the video so far? Drop a like down below, a comment if you're interested.
Samus, I will unlock this area,
Maybe.
allowing you to command your ship to land.
And mayhap even let me know where you would like to see. Maybe add a point of what you would like to be discussed next time. I'd love to hear. Because ultimately, I am just one person, and I would love to have a bit more engagement with those around me. Anyways, if you like what you see, drop a like, leave a subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Until then, I hope you have a good one.
Samus, now that you have the ship grappled, you should be able to assemble the Theronian bomb. We will upload the coordinates to all 3 bomb components to you now.